No, this wasn't a hack. This was worse. Somebody just walked through the front door of the entire music industry, and every single lock was already off. Not Drake's. Not Kendrick Lamar's. Not Frank Ocean's. Not Playboi Carti's. Not Kanye West's. Not D4VD's. Not one of them was standing guard. And what you are watching right now, on your timeline, on your For You page, in every Discord you sit in, is not a hack. Say the word out loud and hear how wrong it sounds. Hack. That is the word that has been sold to you for the last 48 hours, and I need you to understand, before we go one more sentence, that word is a lie. A convenient lie. A protective lie. A lie the platforms want you to accept, because the truth is 100 times more terrifying than the fantasy they have been selling. Here is what I need you to sit with before I even breathe. When you woke up and saw Not Like Us sitting on Drake's official YouTube channel, Drake's own front lawn, with almost 33 million subscribers watching, that was not a break-in. That was somebody walking through a door that was never locked in the first place. And when Family Matters landed on Kendrick Lamar's page at almost the same moment, that was not two separate breaches. That was one system-wide failure, exposed in the most poetic, most surgical, most humiliating way possible. Everything you have been told about how the biggest artists in the world protect their catalogs is a fiction. And by the time we get to the part of this video where I walk you through exactly how one distributor called OFFstep quietly turned into the largest identity loophole in modern streaming history, a name most of you had never heard before this weekend and none of you will ever forget after tonight, you are going to understand why I am telling you the music industry as we knew it is already gone. Not gone in 6 months. Not gone in 2 years. Gone. Present tense. This is a fault line and we are already living on the other side of it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me orient you fully, because this story has more moving pieces than any single blog has been willing to lay out in one place. Over the last 72 hours, according to reporting from Hot New Hip Hop, All Hip Hop, Uprocks, and independent verification through cross-reference posts on Instagram and X, a coordinated wave of unauthorized uploads hit the official YouTube and Apple Music pages of some of the biggest artists on the planet. Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Frank Ocean, Playboi Carti, Kanye West, D4VD, David Banner in his own separate situation. And when I say official pages, I mean the verified, blue-checked, hundreds of millions of streams per month, corporate-owned artist channels. Drake's channel with nearly 33 million subscribers. Kendrick Lamar's official page. Frank Ocean's YouTube music profile, which the man himself famously barely uses because he treats streaming like a distant obligation. Playboi Carti's page. All of them. Hit at once. In one wave. And the songs that got uploaded were surgical. Not random. Surgical. On Drake's channel, somebody uploaded Not Like Us, the exact Kendrick Lamar diss track that Drake himself dragged into federal court, the exact song Drake described in his own filed lawsuit against Universal as career-altering, spiritually damaging, financially catastrophic. On Kendrick Lamar's channel, somebody uploaded Family Matters, Drake's most vicious personal Kendrick diss, the one everybody in the culture agreed crossed lines nobody had crossed before, and layered on top of that, an older version of the prayer that only the deepest Kendrick heads even remembered existed. On Frank Ocean's YouTube music profile, 2 random singles appeared out of nowhere, uploaded by strangers, tagged as if he had released them himself. On Playboi Carti's page, a whole rotation of songs by unknown artists, friends of the trolls, self-promotion by the pranksters themselves landed as if Carti had signed them to opium. This is not gossip. This is the reporting. And every single one of those uploads, according to multiple independent traces, including the description line credits on the videos themselves, was delivered through the exact same pipeline. A distribution service called OFFstep. That is the name. Write it down. That is the fault line. And what I am about to show you about how that pipeline works, or more accurately, how it doesn't work, is the reason every artist team in North America is on the phone right now, and the reason your favorite rapper is not sleeping tonight. Look at this. And I mean actually look. When Not Like Us appeared on Drake's page, the credit line read exactly what it always reads on legitimate uploads. Provided to YouTube by, and then a distributor name. That single line, that boring, unsexy, automated credit at the bottom of the video description, is the entire story. Because in the legitimate music economy, that credit line is supposed to be a proof of chain of custody. It is supposed to mean that a licensed distributor received a track from a verified artist or the verified rights holder, ran identity verification on the submitter, cross-checked the metadata, and pushed the file through the pipeline into YouTube's Content ID system and onto the artist's official topic channel. That verification is the wall. That verification is the entire reason the streaming economy is worth what it is worth. Because if the verification is real, then every song on Drake's page is really from Drake, every song on Kendrick's page is really from Kendrick, and the economic value of those pages, the streams, the ad revenue, the royalty attribution, the algorithmic weight, can be trusted. But according to reporting from independent hip-hop analysis outlets including TSN, WRLD, and multiple community forensic threads, that verification wall did not exist in the OFFstep pipeline. Not in the way you would assume. Anyone with a paid account on the service could reportedly type in an artist name, any name at all, including Drake, including Kendrick Lamar, including Frank Ocean, upload a track, and watch that track appear on the corresponding official topic channel within hours. No handshake with the artist's team. No email confirmation to the rights holder. No ID check. No signature match. Nothing. Zero. That is the surface evidence. That is what you can verify with your own eyes right now, tonight, by going to Drake's YouTube channel, scrolling through the archive screenshots that fans preserved before the takedowns, and reading the description credits. Provided to YouTube by OFFstep. It is all there. In plain text. On the biggest artist channels in the world. That is not a hack. That is a signed, credited, receipt included, delivery confirmed automated ingestion. The trolls did not break in. They filed paperwork. And it gets worse. Because when I say the uploads were surgical, I need you to understand how surgical. On Kendrick Lamar's official page, the version of the prayer that landed was not the mastered, radio-ready version. It was a stripped, older, SoundCloud-era cut that only the most obsessive Kendrick heads had ever heard. That is not a random pick. That is somebody who knows the Kendrick catalog inside out. Somebody who sat in Kendrick Lamar's discography like a scholar, picked the single most cult fan, most inside baseball version of a song they could weaponize, and dropped it onto Kendrick's official channel with a face on the thumbnail that Kendrick Lamar would never sign off on in 100 years. On Drake's channel, sitting next to Not Like Us, was a second, even more absurd upload, a 1 minute and 47-second troll diss reportedly titled Kendrick Amini, according to all hip-hop's coverage. Let that sit in your ear for a second. Kendrick Amini. On Drake's official page. With almost 33 million subscribers refreshing the feed. That is not a hack either. That is comedy. That is somebody laughing at Drake, at Universal, at YouTube, at the entire machinery of protection that is supposed to exist around a billion-dollar artist, and finding out on live stream that none of it is real. And on Playboi Carti's page, the pranksters didn't even bother with a diss narrative. They just started using Carti's channel as a personal promotional pipeline for their own music, their friends' music, whatever they wanted to launder through the algorithm using Carti's brand equity. Every one of those uploads carried the same fingerprint. Every one of them carried a Discord invite tucked into the description. Every one of them was tagged with metadata designed to weaponize the algorithm. And every one of them sat live, on official channels, for hours, before anybody in a position to remove them noticed. Hours. Not seconds. Hours. On the biggest artist pages in the world. That is the surface layer. That is what you can prove with a browser and a screenshot. And oh, do I have more for you? Because the surface layer is where basic reaction channels have stopped. And the culture already thinks this story is over. But the surface layer is not the story. The surface layer is the trailer for the story. What is coming up next is going to make the Drake fans and the Kendrick fans agree on one thing for the first time in 2 years. This is bigger than both of them, and neither of them was protected. Stand with me. Because when I get to the part about what OFFstep actually is, and what the industry insiders have been quietly saying about how these distributor pipelines were built, you are going to understand why I said in my last video, 6 weeks ago, that the entire streaming verification layer was a fiction. I said it then. Nobody believed me then. It is here now. And oh, do I have more? Let me walk you into the cultural evidence, because this is where it stops being a tech story and starts being a culture story. Within 6 hours of the uploads going live, according to a widely shared thread reported across X and preserved on Reddit's r/hiphopeds, a listener on a TikTok live watched an anonymous account demonstrate the exact loophole in real time. Live. On stream. In front of an audience. The account typed in an artist's name, uploaded a placeholder track, and the audience watched it appear on the corresponding artist's topic channel within the hour. That live stream, and the Reddit thread that documented it, is what cracked the entire story open. Not a platform statement. Not a distributor apology. Not a label PR release. A random listener on a TikTok live. That is who is doing the forensic work in modern music. That is what the accountability infrastructure of the streaming era looks like when you strip the branding off it. Meanwhile, artists close to the affected parties started reacting. Publicly. Loudly. Multiple producer accounts on Instagram posted variations of the same message. If this can happen to Drake, this is happening to us next week. Independent artist communities on Discord and Twitter erupted. Because for every Drake and every Kendrick Lamar, there are 10,000 independent artists on OFFstep and services like it who now have to sit and wonder whether their own catalog has been quietly polluted for months and they just haven't noticed. That is the second layer of cultural evidence. The fear ripple. The moment when the mid-tier and independent artists realized they were not just witnesses to this story, they were the next victims in the sequence. Then came the media reactions. And this is where I need to name something that is going to make some of you uncomfortable. Because most of the big hip-hop blogs ran the same headline. Hack. Coordinated hack. Insider job. Not a single major outlet, in the first 24 hours, correctly identified what this actually was. Complex framed it as a hack. Hot New Hip Hop framed it as a hack. All hip-hop's headline still, at the time of this recording, uses the phrase, gets hacked. That framing is not just wrong. That framing is protective. Because if you call it a hack, you preserve the illusion that the platforms had security in place and that security got breached. But if you call it what it actually is, an authorized, credentialed, distributor-facilitated identity spoof through an unmonitored pipeline, then you are indicting the platforms themselves, the distributors themselves, and every executive at every streaming service who has ever told a shareholder that artist verification is under control. That is why the word hack stuck. Not because it is accurate. Because it is convenient. And here is where I want to acknowledge the counterargument, because some of you are going to say, come on, the blogs just used the word most people would understand. Fine. Fair. But now that the true mechanism has been documented, now that OFFstep has been named, now that the credit lines have been screenshotted, now that a TikTok live has demonstrated the exploit in real time, where are the correction headlines? Where are the follow-ups? Where is the industry press asking why this pipeline was allowed to exist? Silence. Radio silence. That silence is the third layer of cultural evidence, and it is the loudest one. The absence of coverage is the coverage. The fourth layer is what happened inside the artist camps. And I want to be careful here, because I do not want to invent quotes I have not seen. But according to reporting from multiple industry-adjacent sources aggregated on X, at least 2 of the affected artist teams reportedly began quietly consulting legal counsel within 12 hours of the uploads. Reportedly. Allegedly. I am using those words for a reason. But the pattern is consistent. The biggest artists in the world are not going to let this sit. Drake already sued Universal over Not Like Us in a case that is still winding through the courts. Do you understand what it means that the exact song at the center of that lawsuit reappeared on his own channel, uploaded by unknown parties, through a distributor pipeline the platforms cannot fully account for? That is not just an insult. That is legal evidence in an ongoing case. That is a new exhibit. That is, potentially, a new defendant list. And Kendrick Lamar's team, historically the most disciplined and quietest legal operation in modern hip-hop, is not going to shrug at family matters landing on their client's official page. Nobody is shrugging. Everybody is quietly lawyering up. And the culture has not fully absorbed what that means yet. The gear shift is coming. And here is where we make the hard pivot. Because everything I have said so far, the uploads, the screenshots, the surgical song choices, the media framing, the artist reactions, all of that is the surface of a much bigger machine. Let's stop talking about the songs. Let's stop talking about the diss tracks. Let's stop talking about the pranksters. And let's talk about the operating system underneath all of it. Because what OFFstep represents is not a rogue actor. OFFstep is a symptom. OFFstep is one distributor out of hundreds. DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, United Masters, Amuse, Symphonic, ONRP, STEM, Vidya, Believe, and roughly 100 more you have never heard of, all of which feed into the same handful of platform ingestion pipelines. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, Deezer. Every one of those platforms trusts the distributors. Every one of those distributors is supposed to be running artist verification. And every one of those platforms, quietly, has been optimizing not for verification but for volume. That is the first systemic angle. Volume over verification. The entire economic incentive of the modern streaming ecosystem is to push as many tracks through the pipeline as fast as possible, because volume drives inventory drives ad load, and ad load drives revenue. Verification, on the other hand, costs money. Human review costs money. ID confirmation costs money. Legal escalation costs money. So every single distributor in the ecosystem, publicly or privately, has a business incentive to run verification as lightly as possible. And the platforms know it. Universal knows it. Sony knows it. Warner knows it. YouTube knows it. Spotify knows it. Everybody knows it. Nobody wants to be the first one to admit it, because admitting it means admitting that the entire chain of custody assumption underneath the streaming economy is a handshake, not a contract. The second systemic angle is the artist topic channel structure itself. And this is a piece almost nobody has explained correctly. When you go to Drake's YouTube channel, you are actually looking at a hybrid entity, part manually curated by Drake's team, part automatically populated by YouTube's topic system, which auto-generates artist pages from distributor-ingested metadata. That auto-generation is why you sometimes see songs on an artist's topic channel that the artist did not personally upload. It is a feature. It was built to make artist catalogs comprehensive without requiring every artist to manually manage a page. But the feature is only safe if the ingestion pipeline is verified. And now we know the ingestion pipeline is not verified. Which means every artist topic channel on YouTube, every single one, from Drake down to the smallest independent, is potentially vulnerable to the same exploit. This is not a Drake problem. This is not a Kendrick problem. This is a platform architecture problem. The entire topic channel system was built on an assumption that has now been publicly disproven. And YouTube, as of this recording, has issued no meaningful public statement about how they intend to fix it. No policy update. No verification overhaul. No public commitment. Just quiet takedowns and hope that the news cycle moves on. The third systemic angle, and this is the one that is going to keep me up at night, is the AI training pipeline. Because here is what most people covering this story are not saying. Every song that sits on an official artist channel, even for a few hours, gets scraped. It gets indexed. It gets fed into training datasets by AI companies who scrape official artist pages assuming the songs there are legitimate. So when a fake AI-generated Drake track gets uploaded to Drake's official YouTube through the OFFstep loophole and sits there for 6 hours before removal, another AI system somewhere in another building has already ingested that fake Drake track as if it were a real Drake track and used it to train the next generation of Drake voice imitation. Do you see the feedback loop? The loophole is not just a chaos generator. The loophole is a permanent contamination of the training data that will shape every AI-generated version of every artist for the next decade. There is no undo button on machine learning ingestion. Once a fake has been trained into a model, the fake is baked in. Forever. And the next Drake AI imitation is going to sound more like Drake, not less, because it was trained on fake Drakes that were trained on fake Drakes. The three systemic angles compound. Volume over verification creates the loophole. Topic channel architecture amplifies the loophole. AI training ingestion makes the loophole permanent. That is not a bug. That is not 3 bugs. That is the operating system. And here is the truth bomb. Here is the sentence I want you to sit with, because it is the reason I made this video and it is the reason I am going to keep making videos about it until somebody at a platform executive level actually addresses it in public. The music industry, as it currently exists, does not have a verification layer. It has a marketing layer that calls itself a verification layer. Every time you see a blue check on an artist page, every time you see that provided to YouTube by credit, every time you see a verified badge on Spotify, none of that means what you have been told it means. None of it. The blue check is a design choice. The credit line is an automation output. The verified badge is a submission form that a distributor filled in on behalf of the artist. There is no cryptographic key. There is no hardware token. There is no biometric confirmation. There is no chain of custody that a court could actually rely on if it had to. The entire authenticity infrastructure of modern music is theater. And what OFFstep exposed, whether they meant to or not, is that the theater has no backstage. There is nobody actually running the show. And that means the songs on Drake's channel are, in a legal and cryptographic sense, no more provably Drake's than the songs on my nephew's SoundCloud. That is not hyperbole. That is the actual, technical, verifiable state of the system. And once you understand that, you cannot ununderstand it. Every stream count on every platform is now retroactively in question. Every algorithmic push is now retroactively in question. Every royalty payment is now retroactively in question. Because if the identity of the uploader cannot be verified, then the identity of the recipient of the royalty payment cannot be verified either. This is not a Drake story. This is not a Kendrick story. This is a story about the entire scaffolding of the streaming economy being held together by a handshake that turned out to have no hand on the other side of it. And every artist, every label, every distributor, every platform, every listener is now standing in the middle of that revelation, blinking. And yet, in the middle of all of this, the person still winning is the person who has been winning the entire time. Kendrick Lamar. And I want to be specific about why. Because it would be lazy to just say Kendrick is winning. What I mean is that Kendrick Lamar, over the last 3 years, has systematically built his career on a set of choices that this exact crisis rewards. Kendrick does not chase streaming. Kendrick does not chase virality. Kendrick does not upload demo cuts to his own channel. Kendrick released GNX with almost no rollout, which meant there was no leak surface for trolls to exploit. Kendrick treats his brand identity as sacred, which meant when Family Matters, an attack song designed to end him, landed on his page, the audience immediately recognized it as foreign, immediately recognized it as fake, and immediately mobilized to correct it. That is what discipline builds. That is what Mystique protects. Every choice Kendrick has made about how to release music, how to control his image, how to stay off social media, how to protect his catalog, every one of those choices is now, in retrospect, a defense mechanism against exactly this kind of crisis. Meanwhile, the artist who structured his entire career around being everywhere, being loud, being maximally accessible, being uploaded, being streamed, being algorithm optimized, that artist is the one